Welcome back to the Townsmen. This is Tim, and I've got something a little bit different for you guys today. This is a recording of one of our old Speakeasy Saturdays from June of this year. And for those who aren't familiar of what a speakeasy is at the Townsmen, it is a conversation we have over on Discord at 8 p.m. Central every Saturday, where anybody can jump in, share some thoughts on whatever we're talking about, and just kind of hang out and get to know each other. It's pretty cool. You'll be hearing from Leif, you'll be hearing from Trenton, who has not yet been on the podcast, but will be at a future date, and also myself. Bear with us on this one. We were recording through Discord, and it has noise suppression, so it has a tendency to cut words off early, and two of us were sick at the time, so we've got sniffles and coughs and things like that. But I didn't want to cut too much for the sake of it sounding like it was recorded originally. For any of you who may be interested in joining one of our speakeasies, we've got links in the description and elsewhere throughout the channel. I'm glad you're here. I hope this brings you something, and enjoy.
I was sitting there, I was listening to it, and like I said, man, I really wanted to enjoy this guy talking for once, because, yeah, he was building up to something good, then he just got completely unhinged with it, and I'm just like, you were actually making sense for once, buddy, and you just ruined it. You ruined it, and I'm leaving. But yeah, because he was actually making some sense on things that could have, things that existed before man on a, on a quote unquote old Earth that had existed before this one. Yeah, and sitting there talking, because like some of the first chapters in Genesis, like chapter 1, 2, and 3. Hold up, let me reopen it real quick. Talking about like how the he had cited some like something about, I don't remember what the fuck it was called, but sitting there talking about how there was how we keep finding all these different like giant bones and stuff like that, yada yada, and like, and then he would refer back to how like in Genesis 1 verse 2, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. Like if the earth was without form, what waters was there to, for the Spirit to be, moving upon and stuff like that. Yeah. Homie was making some good points, and then he just started getting fucking unhinged. I don't even remember what the fuck he's talking about. Second, he started getting off the rails.
I don't understand why they're so obsessed with the Nephilim.
Yeah, like, this dude is literally obsessed. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm sure that there was to a degree there was probably some actual Nephilim shit going on, but to the extent some of these people take it to, I'm like, dog, chill the fuck out, man. If like, because like there was one I had listened to as a podcast about like Nephilim DNA and all that, and I'm just like, and they started talking about how like a lot of the like superstars you see in sports nowadays, like they particularly go out of their way to pick people who have this certain type of bloodline, or not bloodline, but like certain type, blood type that was quote unquote found within a beast or whatever. That was fucking massive. I don't know. It was some fucking just.
But see, it's all schizophrenic.
Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like no I listened to that. So honestly, that's the main reason why I listen to some of those, is because they're just so fucking unhinged. It's funny to listen to, and I just sit there. I'm like, damn, you guys took one piece and stretched it for miles.
Like, yep, every time.
I think what that comes from is, and Trenton, you'll probably disagree with me here, and that's fine. I would say that is the death throes of Christianity in a modern world with modern tools, and they're not willing to accept a different translation of their old stories and synthesized with new tools. So there's something in
they're trying to grow without making it actually grow.
Yeah, and it's like, well, there's this DNA from Nephilim. It's like, okay, your stories are one thing. Modern day actual science, not scientism, is another thing. Can they blend somewhere in the middle? Yes, but it's not anywhere close to what they just planted it at.
Right.
So
But yeah, no, Tim, I think you actually, I don't disagree with you at all, because like, yeah, some of these dudes are actually completely fucking unhinged, and they take these small parts. Because like me personally, I believe that yes, angels probably did breed with human women and created these fucking monstrosities. That's why God flooded the fucking earth. But at the same time, to take those bits, because like even throughout the books of David, the book, what was it? What were they called? There was the prophet. Fuck, what was his name? The king Saul had a prophet that would speak to him, and then he died during the times of David. And even once David would then take the throne, the books are named after the prophet. But David would then take the throne, and then him and his mighty men would then go and try and seek out the rest of these, quote unquote Nephilim people, Goliath's kin, if you would, to then exterminate the rest of them. And don't get me wrong, like I loved all of the books that were about David. I fucking loved them. Not only did they feel like yes, they were quote unquote entertaining, so you could just say I'm just running off of that, but to understand where David had come from to then become the Chadley man that God always wanted him to be, it's a compelling story. It really is. And you can see the growth that not only he did, but the growth that God wants for us as well. That's why I feel like this is the main thing to take from the story of David. And
right.
But then people will take the whole Nephilim thing. Like, I'm sure, yeah, he probably did have to go out and purge some shit. Whether it was Nephilim or not, it's a whole nother fucking story. But the fact that these dudes will take that Nephilim shit, dude, stretch it the fuck out, dude. They really do believe that people are taken into the sports industry that have this certain blood type, because apparently that is blood from, like, Nephilim ancestry. And I'm like, first off, these men are obviously, yeah, they're kind of a cut above the rest physically. Fair enough. But to say that just because that, like, they have that makes them different from, like, every other man, what's to stop me from being that way? Dude, I'm fucking 6'1".
It's just real shoddy cope with genetics, it seems.
Exactly. Because, like, dude, I'm 6'1". If I put in the work, I worked out, stretched all the time, I could be one of those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's what makes me different from them other than your crazy conspiracy theory? Nothing. Literally. And I just, like, so that's why I don't disagree with you, Tim, because, like, I want to believe that a lot of that stuff is true about, like, not necessarily about the, that's just fucking garbage, but the idea that there were these abominations not made within the image of God that had to be fucking purged. And if that's the case, fucking send it. You know what I mean? But it's the lengths that these guys will go to. Fucking Sasquatch was a Nephilim. All this and that. And I'm like, okay,
oh God,
first
yeah,
off,
it
dude.
gets real crazy.
Yeah, dude, it gets cringe fast.
I know.
Because I'm sitting there, I'm just like, bro, you've got to be kidding me. That's why I don't like, whenever I see those kind of quote unquote, if you would, just to generalize it all, those conspiracy videos on YouTube or wherever you find them, I avoid the Bigfoot one or the Dogman ones or the Mothman ones. I avoid them because that's just dumb. I'm here to hear people's experiences about dealing with the enemy. And yeah, you could argue that just like how God has his hierarchies, within his, kingdom, maybe the devil has his own. Maybe some of them are the quote unquote Nephilim that he has recruited. I don't fucking know. I don't really care. All right.
But I just don't see how any capacity can we know. Exactly. We have literally, we're the most ignorant things on the planet, even though we're the smartest. Yeah. I don't think we'd have any conceptual idea. Because if angels themselves are so absolutely beyond and hard to understand, I think that it's a ginormous leap, even for the men of the past, to say that mighty men were descendant of that. Especially divine things anathema to materium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think...
I don't...
So much. No, that's okay. Yeah, just so much of that stuff is like people needing to bring their beliefs so down to other people's level, like they need to make it believable in a modern context, otherwise it doesn't fit. It's like, yeah, but you're doing it completely wrong.
Unhinged.
And it's like they know that there's something wrong about it because it doesn't fit into a modern context, so they make it fit.
Yep.
It's cramming a square peg in a round hole. It's like, guess what, guys? That's not the way it's supposed to be. Turns out it was a square hole the whole time. We rounded something round in it, and there's still room to wiggle it around. Like, it doesn't have to be completely airtight. It has to be completely sensible. It's like, a lot of it's going to be like translation, it's mythology, and you're probably going to have to guess. Sorry, guys, it's not a perfect system. You have to take some pieces of it and get rid of other pieces, and that's just how it is.
Uh-huh. Truly.
Do I think it can be perfected in a way that's like maximized, I guess I could say? Yes, but to call it, I don't know, it's just...
To call it perfect now would be ignorance.
I don't think it ever was perfect.
Yeah.
I don't think it can be.
Yeah.
Just by nature of who made it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we are imperfect, mortal, finite creatures trying to understand something that is inherently infinite. And that is just, that's Earth, that's everything. And I think religions in the past have done their damnedest to understand all of those things in the languages and the tools that they had at the time. And that's it. We have new tools, and I think we're stupid if we don't use them carefully. Doesn't mean we completely throw out all the old shit. That's obviously not the point. But, like, team, like, quit being retarded.
Fuck we doing here, guys?
Yeah.
Literally.
And, I don't know, learn how to, like, people can misuse tools all the time because they think they understand them, and they basically draw man both sides. It's like, look how easy these are to understand. It's like, no, just look how poorly you understand both of them. It's, I don't know, people are
retarded.
They are,
everything we
and
make
you can't,
is made in our image.
Yeah, you can't really blame them to some degree, because it's like, most people are retarded. Most people aren't geared for this. And that's okay. That's just how they're going to be, man. But doesn't mean everyone all the time has to be retarded.
Facts. And that's what I always tell my brother, because he's asked me twice now, because he sees my hat. He's seen my John Paul Jones shirt the other day, and he asked me, because he was like, so what is the Townsmen? I was like, I mean, we're just a bunch of dudes with different, with some of us have some different beliefs, some of us have the same, all just trying to find the truth, man. Because the world's retarded, and
everything's retarded.
And I'm just here to I'm just here to try and find what bits and scraps of the truth that I can muster, and here I am.
Yep. That's it, start to finish.
That, and it's good to have people that aren't part of the same dogmatic adherence. You're not stuck in an echo chamber. Disagreement is good.
Yep.
Solve et coagula.
Yep.
Being able to dispense with your shitty ideas and intake newer ideas and leave room for better ideas.
Yep.
It's probably the best we'll get.
Pretty much. And as frustrating as it often is, because I have disagreements with you guys and some of the other guys, some more than others, on a fairly regular basis. I disagree with you probably less. If I disagree with you, Leif, it's mostly because I'm like,
and then 3 hours
to
later,
understand something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how it always works with us. We just give it a little time and work with it a little bit, and hey, good. Now we're both less retarded.
Yep.
Swallow the fact that it's like, I have some disagreements with some of the other people here, and that's okay. We still have something to talk about.
I think just everybody needs to come to terms that you don't know everything. None of us do. We can't.
I'd love to get into a chat with that dude you keep talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I truly want to understand where he, like, is he one of those, like, is he one of those plasticky ones that's just like, well, I've accepted Christ, that's all I gotta do, or is
he genuinely knows the literature. He's very intelligent, but his thing is, it's the perfect and utter truth, and nothing else can be truer. And that's kind of the irony and the arrogance. Honestly, it's that really ironic pride that comes out.
Yep.
Interesting. I was about to say, because I've met my fair share of plasticky, non-actual faithful Christians who are like, "Oh, I accept Jesus." That all you got? Have you counted the cost?
And that's definitely not him.
No, he basically takes what those people say and actually adds meat to the bone. And I say it that way carefully because it seems like that's what he's done. I'm not trying to minimize his position. That's not my
right. Yeah,
goal
no, that'd
here.
be rude.
But it's like it was already a bad start, and it just kept adding to it and adding to it. It's like, Trenton, I think if you were more linear, I think, likes his I's dotted, his T's crossed, all of these kinds of things that are very, this leads to that, this leads to that, this leads to that. And I think that's fine. But where I don't think you suffer necessarily this way, Trenton, because you are open to truth as it is more than some of these other guys might be. But once those guys are on that first track, it's a straight line. It doesn't go forward a little bit, then off to the left, then off to the right, then off to the right. And, it just kind of keeps crisscrossing all over the place. But it is one single line. You can see where it all started and you can see where it's ended, but you can't necessarily see where the end point is. Some of those other guys seem to have started with a preconception and then tried to prove it. I think you are seeking the truth and you're finding the pieces that fit between you and it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, truly. And honestly, I want to back that up, what you just said, because me personally, do I believe that there is a realm that we would all to as heaven? Yes. To understand what that's going to be is a whole nother fucking ballgame. Because even the idea of hell is still fucking up in the air. Do I have my theories? Obviously, everybody does. But at the end of the day, to say that I know exactly what hell is like because I fucking read the book, no, sorry, I can't say that. One, I don't ever want to fucking go there if that is the case. Two, even if that's not the case, and it just so happens to be, if my theory is correct, which if you're just a shitty person, and you never actually tried to do anything about it, you're just a terrible fucking human being, and you end up in the eternal torture, whatever, if that is the case. Or, if you're just someone who lived an average life but never really ever cared about trying to come closer to the one who created you, you just take the dirt nap. Guess what? You don't exist anymore. You're not tortured for the rest of existence, but you just don't exist anymore. Obviously, I'm going to sit here and tell you that's a great fucking theory. I think it's got meat to it. It needs a bit of work, obviously. But heaven, bro, Jesus talks about hell a lot more than he does. So, and that's just the bits and pieces of hell that he actually does talk about. That's where I get my theory from. But heaven, all I know is that one day I'm gonna stand before the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and they're gonna be like, "You're kind of a hoe." they're gonna, I'm gonna judge. Whether it be Yahweh, Christ, the Holy Spirit, fucking Krishna, Buddha, it doesn't matter. There is going to be a judgment for us. I refuse to believe that people are allowed to just have, the punishments of mankind. Because I'm gonna be real, some of the despicable, disgusting things you hear about in this world, I'm sorry, prison is not enough. Death itself is just not enough for that. That is a punishment beyond what we as human beings can dish out. That deserves something far greater than anything we could ever do. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, I'm just like, there has to be a form of judgment that is stronger than what human beings can dish out whenever you cross over to the other side. Now, do I believe it's going to be Krishna or Buddha or whatever, Huda, Fada? I don't know. I don't. I don't think it's going to be them. But at the same time, to say that there won't be some sort of judgment for who you were as a person is just that to say that there isn't is kind of fucking mind-boggling to me. Like I can't say that there's not going to be. I doubt with every fiber of my being that That it's just going to be, oh well, everyone lived shitty lives, so now everyone just takes the dirt nap and sleeps peacefully for fucking ever, or until the planet blows up, whatever. I don't fucking know. I can't buy into that. That's why I'll never be able to vibe with how the atheists belief system. I just can't. This blows my mind that they could just have such a. I don't want to be rude and say simple-minded, but that's what I have to say, because that's what it is. It honestly seems very simple-minded to me, and I can respect a simple-minded point of view. Usually, if it's simple, it's good. If sometimes not the case, but I don't know. I feel like when it comes to the idea of where you're gonna end up after your body takes the dirt nap, I feel like it's very simple-minded to just be like, yeah, no, just the dirt nap, nothing else.
Yeah.
Like,
can I challenge that a little bit?
All right, let's hear it.
I mean this completely sincerely, and I say it because I genuinely love you, but I think that is cope. So is I mean ultimately life isn't about us. Even if we make our entire lives about ourselves, it's going to be put on the shoulders of everyone else who survives us, or who doesn't survive us because of things we did or did not do. So, we'll take the obvious example of like Hitler. Do I think he is in hell in a straightly Christian understanding of the word? I don't think so, because I don't believe in such a thing, and I don't have enough real evidence to believe in such a thing. Ultimately, I should say I don't know, because I just don't. But my usual stance is just to the KISS principle of like, keep it simple, stupid. So if there isn't the evidence for it, it's best to assume no and work otherwise. So I think taking a stance of like, I refuse to believe that there isn't something after this is ultimately not looking at the problem from the right dimension. Because I think if they don't, that is what hell is. It's like that person spent their entire life making it for somebody else, and they get to die, and everything else they did, it's like, that's the evil of it. That's why it's evil. If they had to sit there and be punished for the rest of eternity for it, I think that is our understanding of judgment. But I think on
nature's not fair. We are, and sometimes evil does go unpunished, and that's tragedy.
Yeah, and I think that's the real essence of good and evil. Is it's the good that conquers that. It's the good that can take those sorts of things and transmute them into the good. Evil in and of itself, I don't think is punished unless the good punishes it. And I don't think that there is an afterlife, or I don't know if there is an afterlife that can assure that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can get it. It is, like you said, keep it simple, stupid, and that's usually, I don't want to call you simple-minded, but that's the way I see the idea of just the dirt nap. You know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, you make a very valid point of it's not all about us. I would argue it's about Christ, but that's just me. But in the idea that, yeah, because one of the major things about humans is obviously love one another, make sure the planet's ready to go for who comes after you. Fair enough, but and like I said, you call it cope. Fair enough, you do you. But I'm gonna be real. There's just
I just don't see any point at all talking about the afterlife, to be honest. It's so beyond us. It's so beyond our scope of perception and even conjecture.
But to try and get a grasp on what it could possibly be and the things that we could actually come up with is definitely not something we should just let go, because obviously we're here to understand and try and figure out what we can. Obviously, we'll never understand all of it. I think obviously all three of us can agree it'd be ignorant for any of us to say that we do have it figured out. But at the same time, I feel like to theorize on it, try and understand it, and try to live the best life possible for us to then try and, like you would say, transcend yourself to the next level per se, to then, I feel like that's something that we should all try to achieve, whether that be in the
But
form
is the fruit of that labor worth it? Like, from my like looking upon a collection of religions, occultic practices and stuff, the hyperfixation of the mortality and what comes after usually bears ill fruit a lot of the time. Either people are like, fall into nihilism of it doesn't matter entirely. I either go to hell or heaven. It's all beyond my scope of potential or power. Or the samsaric cycle of suffering if we just keep doing this and I'll just try again next time. I don't think the fruits are necessarily positive because it's either born out of fear or born out of irreverence.
See, and I would say that for someone like me who truly tries to understand what I would believe to be my creator to to be, to try and live up to his expectation, obviously it's fucking impossible, it's a fucking high price to pay right there. But at the same time, I would also say that trying to, because for me it's all about being with them, it's not about me, it's about him, it's about Christ. So to want to live, for me to try and fulfill my end of what I believe is my duty, to then, like how he would sacrifice himself for me, I then should sacrifice what I have to then try and be like, yo, dude, I want to actually show you I'm willing to, I want to show you that I'm willing to do what is necessary to be with you. Because it's not a matter of, oh, well, I think I'm the good boy, so I should get this. No, it's a matter of I want to spend eternity with the, the being that I would, love, just like you guys. I want to spend eternity with y'all. You know what I mean? Like, y'all my boys.
Right.
I fucking love you guys. I love every human being known to man. Whether they be terrible or not, that doesn't mean I gotta love their decisions. But
right.
And for Christ to be the one willing to, then sacrifice himself, I feel like he, necessarily, I guess deserved probably isn't necessarily the word to use, but I'm gonna use it anyway, deserves for us to then try and live that kind of life to then one day be with him in eternity, so you can be with another person that you love as another being. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Right.
another being, even if he is God revealed in the flesh, that is still another being made within the image of God. So I'm gonna love him with all my heart, body, and soul as much as I can. Obviously, I think Jordan Peterson actually has a very good idea on it. To do that is damn near impossible. To love something with all your mind, body, and spirit, you would have to dedicate every day to it. And let's face it, in a day and age where, fictions are at their highest, well, let's go back 10 years or so and I'll make that statement. But where you're in a society, especially like here in America, where you work for your living, you're always doing this, it's hard to live that kind of life when you're stuck doing all this nonsense. So that's why I really look to the idea of, you got to count the cost of what it means to follow Christ. You really got to learn to give this up. I'm not saying, stop working, stop making money. Obviously, you need it to survive. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there's a certain level of things that I'm willing to let go of, and things that I know that are going to be harder for me to let go of, so that I can then one day be in that eternal place. And like I said, I don't know what it's going to be. We might not even call it heaven. We might call it fucking Jubilah for all I don't know. So, but to then hopefully, to follow the path that he set for us with a pretty just set of laws and rules, I would say is worth trying to ascend to that position. You know what I mean? With the man, with the people that I wish to see there with me, for eternity, as opposed to just, oh, well, I'm the good boy, so I should get what I want. No, I don't see it that way. I see it as trying to be with people that I love for eternity. If that means I got to sacrifice my own worldly, wants, then by all means. By all means.
That's Solve et Coagula. It's transcendence through discipline. It's the invocative ritual of the Christendom.
Exactly. So if I have to give up cigarettes, I did. If I have to give up weed, I did. If I have to give up booze, I did.
I've been working on kind of I don't know if it's a steel man or a straw man, to be honest. I guess proof's in the pudding. We'll see where it goes. But I kind of thought about this when I was chatting with my dad, because my dad's a big Christian as well, and he's very knowledgeable. He's a very intelligent guy. But if Yahweh, and this one's hard, so my issue is the distinctions of the God head in Christianity. You kind of got the logos, like the mind of God, the intellect, the love, and like it's these compartmentalized aspects. Because if he's everything, right, the Alpha et Omega, the beginning and the end, the eternal, right?
Yeah.
He's evil too. He's literally everything. If he is the all thing,
yeah,
he's evil as well, right?
Okay, keep going.
And so I struggle to make. I want the separation badly, just because I compartmentalize information to where Elohim is the broader aspect, the all thing, the everything, whereas the deified aspect of mind of Elohim, the truth, the light, the love, the positivity, the paternal figure is in fact Yahweh, where then Christ becomes an emanation of that to make the impersonal personal through ritual. And that makes all sense to me. I think that's really straight-lined, very simple, and it makes sense. But a lot of people get hung up on it. But they say it's eternal and everything, but it also cannot be evil, because that's impossible. But evil is a product of God, because it's all things of creation as made by Him. And so we get into this weird conundrum where we just start having negative dialectics, and confusion is born because it's a denial of distinction. They just reject the premise.
I would say that to the extension that maybe God isn't, maybe Yahweh isn't necessarily, like, obviously, yes, if he is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, obviously he is everything. I feel like he has the capacity for evil, because, I mean, he created, a place for the devil and his angels to suffer for eternity for the crimes they committed against God, And then you also got to think that he burned Sodom and Gomorrah for their hedonism. So
and punishment
yes,
isn't
he's capable.
Evil,
yeah, he can in fact do evil things, but I feel like the idea of where Yahweh is a loving, just God that comes throughout the whole idea of Judaism and Christianity is the idea that he is capable of that evil. Obviously, the infinite, Alpha and Omega, clearly capable of doing evil things if he wanted to. But in the idea that he is a just God, because even think about it this way, somebody had to pay the price for our sins, within the realm of my belief system. And Christ was the one who did. He was the one who paid the price for that. And think about it this way. If God just was fucking love, life, happiness, all that shit, guess what? He would have that would have never have happened. But the fact that God had to have someone pay up for what we did, yeah, I would say that there's not necessarily I'm not going to say necessarily evil, but a just God who understands that there is a necessity for evil tactics, if you would, I guess, not necessarily the best wording, but is able to take those things, and use them for the benefit overall. Like, obviously he could fucking, we're gone, snap his fingers, everything's gone, if he truly is the creator God, But he doesn't do that because he wants to give us, a chance. And let's face it, who knows what would have happened to humankind if, Christ didn't do what he did. You know what I mean? God probably would have wiped the fucking slate clean and been like, well, we're starting anew. Let's see what happens. You know what I mean? Or maybe that's me maybe that's blasphemy. I don't know. But that's what we're here to figure out.
I think it's too personalized. I think we make these things way too human. Like, they operate through us, and our whole existence is shaped by our narrow worldview. We can only think human. So I think the struggle we have with the impersonal is we make it much too... We ascribe the potential upon Yahweh, but Yahweh has no body. There is no sex. There is there's only behaviors that ascribe this... Well, the spirit and materium are different. They're actually at polarities against each other, where there is a clear distinction between the two, because one begets the other. It's the opposites begetting each other, essentially, by their distinction. And so we ascribe all of these human phenomenons onto these outer abstract gods who are if spirit form just being like, if we were to talk in the postmodern age, it's a amalgam of information made manifest that is, in a sense, a force of on itself that participates in spiritual copulation. It's an idea that self and continues action throughout the world. It's beyond us. An idea that spiraled into action beyond our capabilities. Because if you look at the evolution of Yahweh and the manifestation of the Israelite God out of Egyptian polytheism back in the day, because that's where it came from, I really do think that Yahweh is just another tree in this greater forest that we just, our brains cannot understand. So be honest, so complex and infinite that we try. I think we try, and my only problem and contention is to think we know. That's my hardest thing. I know that we don't know. That's the only thing one can truly understand, is that we are in fact retarded.
We are in fact retarded. True.
Because Yahweh to me is the deification of the paternal light love. It's dominion, true genuine dominion, but it is the lordly monarch. It is the hero king in a sense. This tired, because it's more native archetypes that are seen by dissenters, people who have that kind of religious bigotry and hate Christianity, see it as tyranny and oppression and whatnot, this negative facade. But it is supposed to be the designation of the benevolent archetypal monarch. It is the Lord of Lords. You know what I mean? Yeah. But that's not the thing. That's not this material body in a complex infinite mind. It is not the encompassment of good and evil. It's not this nearly unconscious thing that begets an order so beyond us. I just think Christianity must grow, evolve, and broaden its scope, because I mean, a lot changes in 2,000 years, man. Our language changes in 2,000 years to a degree where it doesn't work anymore a lot of the time. And I think our brains are capable of understanding things differently. And we have a collective consciousness that can stack information in order to create different parameters for higher thinking. This ancestral knowledge, I guess. I think it's bigger. I don't think it's human at all. I think we are a motile force, and I think these things act through us, and that anything were to be in this world, it happens ourselves and in a reciprocal process of spirit begets action. But I don't think... I think that everybody loves the idea of like that father, you know, lording over us. But in reality, I mean, we are the rulers of this realm. We are the sovereigns of self, and we choose to serve. True. And that's the essence of free will. I think we have free will in every single thing we do, even choices. I mean, hard. And nature is a powerful relic and a powerful contender for our souls. And yeah, it's hard, man.
See, and I would like to add on to your point there, because a lot of people like to ask the question, you know, obviously, you know, we talked about this multiple times before, but, you know, like, if God's so good, why has he let all this evil into the world? And I would argue, you know, well, I mean, like you just said, this is our realm. Why are humans so bloody evil? Answer me that. God has nothing to do with this. He gave us this realm and was like, hey, here you go. I'm going to let you fucking run the course. I'm going to help you out for the first, you know, couple centuries or two. Maybe I pop in a little bit later after that, and, you know, we try and get this figured out. And next thing you know, guess what? Even after the dude who, like, the or Yahweh, let's just say that, managed to manifested a part of himself to then be in the physical plane to then try and make up for what, you know, the evil that we as human beings have put on this earth, because that is in the essence of the idea of the free will. Because let's face it, you know, that's why I can understand why you would say that in the idea that, you know, God is everything. Even the idea of evil is he then lets, you know, he just kind of sits back and watches to see what we would do with that free will, and that entails the evil that, you know, that happens on this planet as well. So yeah, I would.
Well, if he is everything, he is simultaneously himself and his opposite at the same time. It's a paradoxical coexistence of all things. Yeah. And so that's why I struggle to think that the all thing thinks cohesively. I don't think there is intuitive, purposeful action. I think there's a deeper of order that resounds and begets, and I don't think there's enough energy of the mind, because the only time there is mind within the all thing is when we think. It's the only time any shard of nous begets itself unto reality is when we begin to think and conceptualize these abstract ideas and create these pervasive spirits unto the world. I think that it's too human to say, oh, cause and effect, blatant action, let me act upon these whims and thoughts and impulses. That's still very human. I think that, man, it's an order so beyond us. It's seemingly chaos. You know what I mean? Like utter, like nuttery, but I mean, chaos isn't real. That's a kind of an oxymoron. There's order in everything. It's just order we know or not.
That you're wrong.
Well, they're the ruinous powers.
Yeah, my entire podcast episode on chaos and suffering was basically on that entire concept of like what we think of as chaos isn't actually chaos. Like what we think is completely disorderly, this, that, and the other thing, it's like not quite. And not only not quite in some conceptual philosophical knowledge or language or whatever, but like even in math, like chaos theory itself says like, guess what? Nothing's
chaos.
Yeah. Nothing does.
We're just either retarded or not. It's ignorance or knowledge. That's why I believe. So, Trent, let me raise you a question. And this question is not a gotcha or anything. It's purposely worded this way to invoke a response. Do you think imagination's real?
A very odd question. Okay.
Right.
I don't even know how to fucking respond to that. To be real with you, bud, I'm gonna go with yes. I don't know. That's a very odd question. I've never been asked that before.
I agree with you. I believe the imagination is real.
I would say it's definitely real. I would say that obviously there's a limit to it, but at the same time, I would say that the idea, because think about it this way, man wouldn't have been able to, even if a majority of it was, a man wouldn't have been able to innovate without an imagination to build that.
And that means there's a cause and effect.
Where'd that question come from? Just out of curiosity.
So I'll show you where it's going to go. And the proof is in the pudding. It'll be chiasmic. So say you're a painter, right? And you just have this idea. You're going to paint a sunset. It's all in your head right now.
Okay.
There is a cohesive collection of already intellectual properties, such as what paint is, what the art of painting is, paintbrushes, canvases, the tools, these creative processes that humans have then developed onto the world that have cemented themselves as their own physical servitors of intellectual purpose. And then you take this cohesive collection of things and then apply will, apply energy unto information, brings forth the imagination unto the world. And then it becomes a thing. It becomes what colloquial everybody would be like, oh, that's real. That's in my face right there. Now, I think that information entirely is real. Even that like 3 a.m. you woke up by like some noise and you had a quick thought, that information that you produced, you put energy unto it, is real. Now, let's think of a word that doesn't exist at all. This word will exist someday, and the parts, the mechanisms that will produce that word intellectually, its substance, its essence, in a sense, those parts exist without us even knowing the word. But it's in a chaos state. It's seemingly chaotic. We don't know it. We're ignorant of it. Only when we order this word does it then cement itself into what we would colloquially understand as reality. It leaves the chaos state and enters the current information state. And I believe that works backwards too. I believe there's things we've known in the past that is now completely lost, and it's re-entered the chaos state. It has been lost. And so if information is real and we can apply energy unto it to create it in magnitudes, I believe that falls into the formulaic process of the Trinity, where we take an information field. So a God that doesn't exist yet, or a God that is dead, I guess you could say, that we don't like believe in or talk about anymore. It's in a chaos state. No energy is being applied to its faculties, right? It's in the lowest possible strata of its energy potential. We then start thinking about it. The first man thinks about God, right? Or we'll say Moses, for example, thinks about God. He goes, I've just touched something. This is a good idea. He starts applying energy. He starts learning. He starts spreading. He starts searching. And the more he applies this energy, the more cohesive the spirit becomes, and then he spreads it. And then those people start putting physical, I'll say fetishes for the sake of the magical parallels, into the world. And these have a spiritual, intellectual purpose that resonate unto the person. There's an encoded and decoded principality between people and between items and things that we create and the words we use. And so there's a reciprocative and constructive resonance that is applied to these complex ideas. And then that is the progressive spirit unto the world. We have the unbegotten Father, a God that does not exist in the materium. It is informational or divine. I don't want to say information to denounce the fact of any sort of spirit or divine. I believe these things are complex beyond us and we don't understand them. But we can take these ideas, manifest them unto the world, and apply energy. We are the motile force. Shit does not happen here without us, good or evil. We apply that, and then the spirit that then pervades this Father that has been begotten unto the world, the Spirit, is then a manifestation of God unto the world. And I think any God follows that formulaic process. Look at Western society. Everybody asks me for proof of it, and a proof of God, and I go, yeah, churches, Western society, how we order ourselves, the language we use, the word, everything we do, every aspect of our existence drips with Yahweh. It's formulated our existence. It's really complex, and I think a lot of it is very simply understanding it in the invocative processes and how we operate in tandem with these things and bringing them unto the world, and how the fetishes and the effects on the world then react unto us.
Yeah, I'd say that's another case of it's simple, but it's not easy.
Right.
It's simple, but it's not easy.
It totally makes sense when you hear it, but it's
trying to process that shit that you just said. I'll be real.
Yeah, ask some questions, man. And I can draw parallels. What truth can stand on its own. So you bring Satan, for example. My argument of the deification of Satan is that we started purveying so much information unto that spirit over and over and over again, giving it power through energy. Even the fear of Satan provides energy. And I think you'd agree with that of any negative spirit, demon, or whatever. If you apply fear to it, you're still applying energy unto that negative aspect, and it's making it more negative. And I think that works for Satan as well, chiefly. And then you have people who follow the morning star face of Satan, of I will actually willingly give myself to this. I will create statues. I will create effigies, fetishes, and purvey his spirit unto the world, further solidifying a god form unto existence. And it works with the pagan gods, Zeus, all those. The more you operate within the invocative properties, making yourself like them, bringing their intelligence unto the world, and then morphing the world with that will, you're manifesting that god.
Yeah, okay.
Interesting.
I'm about the schematics and the observable data. I'm not science end all be all, but it's still a tool, and it's a very good tool. And I think
it's a good tool nonetheless.
I think spirit and science can be reconciled. I don't think they're on opposite ends of the pendulum at all. I think they can be complementary and quite. It's just they're far away on the spectrum.
I would say they're definitely two sides of the same coin, for sure.
Because faith's a hard thing. I don't operate through faith model at all. I've come to the conclusions I have with holy orders and the divine and these complex contemplations through observable data, repetition, and cause and effect. And that doesn't denounce it. That doesn't make it any less magical or any less real. But that's why I don't care about the afterlife. Everything's just faith and conjecture. You know what I mean? We have no choice but to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that our gods... Some people get hung up on the words when I say this, but I think our gods in this realm are as real as we make them to be. Not that they're not detached from us and exist without us. I don't think that's the case. I think that we apply energy unto them and make them manifest unto the world.
See, and I think you might be onto something a little bit there, because let's just look at modern day Western civilization. Look at it. We used we used to be the most Christian part of the world. This was one of the parts of the world that Christianity had moved its way into and become the strongest spot for that belief system in the world. And then slowly we start to, let go of it, whether it was the communist agenda or not. It's a whole nother story, a topic for later.
Right.
But, to then remove...
Well, it's Marxist. They've purposely created an anti-particle to Yahweh. And if Yahweh's everything, he has to be his opposite and he has to be the positive and the negative at the same time. But we have a positive under the destructive qualities of meeting its opposite force. And it's a purely destructive force where you have more of a creative force.
Yeah.
Control and disorder.
Yeah, I was about to say, because, and then you look into the modern day, where after all this, Marxist planning and theory has come into our country and started to destroy it, now we have this sex-crazed, wrathful,
prideful
deity that the left is forming. I say the left and just kind of
I know what you mean.
Thing.
Yeah, colloquial, you and I can understand.
Yeah, exactly. So that they have manifested, and now that evil spirit, which I personally would believe that it is probably the devil and his minions, that's a whole nother topic for later.
But you're not necessarily wrong, though, because they built themselves opposite and anathema to Christendom. They've made themselves the antiparticle, which Christendom names their antiparticle as Satan, Satan.
Yeah, exactly. And see, my thing is the main evidence that I would say for that, and honestly, obviously more evidence is always useful, but I would say the main bit of evidence that doesn't necessarily stand on itself alone, but could if we truly needed it to, the idea that they call it gay pride is one of the main bits of evidence I would say that leans on the idea that the thing that they are following, whether they know it or not, is actually the idea of Lucifer, Satan, the devil, whatever you want to call him. So that
it's
there,
beyond
like I said,
gay
it's
now.
It's not something to just, obviously, evidence in abundance is better than one. But I would say that if there's one bit of evidence that I would throw at someone at the first fucking bit of an argument for that, I would say it would be the fact that they call it gay pride.
It's beyond gay.
In my opinion, don't get me wrong, obviously, I've told you the ideas of how sin is equal and how it's not equal. So, but at the same time, pride being the sin that gave us the dude who we're supposed to, rebuke, we're supposed to banish him, get rid of him. Don't even fucking mention the guy, because not only are we not supposed to fear him, but don't fucking talk about him because he's cringe. But
well, the writings on the walls, they've named themselves pride because they believe themselves chief of the hierarchy. They believe humanity's top of all things, grandiose or not. And so you have and it's beyond gay, as I was saying, it's queer. Queer specifically means anti-normal. And in Western society, what is normal?
Is that the definition of queer?
Yes. Queer means anti-normal. That's why, gay, homonormativity, buddy. So you heard of heteronormativity. Get rid of homonormativity.
Hold up, I'm about to look up this shit real quick.
If they're honest.
Look up.
Yeah, that's a good question. You just tell me because I won't. I don't trust Google to give me a straight answer.
Look up the newest New Discourses video. He did a very short little bullet points episode on what the definition of queer is. Just watched it today. Just got released in the last couple days. James Lindsay, yeah.
Okay, so it is on YouTube. Tight.
Yep.
But Jim Harper, Judith Butler, and stuff, they specifically use queer as anti-normal. That's why they don't really care about gays anymore. It's about trans people and stuff, because gays got accepted. They're now the new norm. We're like, all right, whatever. They've been accepted into the greater fold of society. They get married and whatnot. They act with accordance to law and whatnot. They no longer serve the queer agenda. They're no longer activists. And the left eats itself. It does its Soviet et coagula. It gets rid of the dead weight, the no longer activists. And then at the end, like for Mao's Cultural Revolution, for example, when its activists did its thing, he just threw those guys away too, because they was like, you're too radical. I need stability right now. They just operate with what they need.
Well, that's the thing, is in that episode, he is very, very adamant about the point of queer isn't a gender. It's a political stance.
Yes.
That's
you
all
can't
it is.
Be queer, you could only do queer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Because to be queer is to not be. Because being is normal.
Yeah.
it is the essence of genuine chaos, like the real chaos, the anti of everything.
Yeah, because it's completely ungrounded. It's not in reality. By definition, in Jim Harper's book, that's what he defines it as. He expands on Foucault, I think it was, and says outright, like, this is what queer is. It isn't homosexual. That's not this anymore. Like, that's normalized. Here's this new thing. And yeah, talk about the apple fell a long ways from the tree, but somehow in a worse place.
Yeah.
By a huge margin.
Well, it's because it's destruction. It's degeneration. It is the sacrament of defilement. It's built purposely antithetical to the positive structures of society, because in nature, only the good and effective things persist. And that's what they're really against. I mean, look at like Black society, like African American culture in America. The fatherlessness and stuff like that in nature would not work. It would die out really fast.
Yeah, guess what? All your babies are dead because there's not a father to defend it.
All your women got kidnapped. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we've conquered nature in many aspects. Obviously, we're still fighting nature in a multitude of ways, but really we have won. We've pushed the boundaries really crazy far, to a point where I don't think the three of us could really truly conceptualize how far we've liberated ourselves from nature.
Truly. Oh, yeah.
And so that's opened up the door for our relics of internal nature to now be what we are contending with mostly now. We've beat external nature, but internal nature is definitely a leviathan.
Oh, dude, it's a beast that needs to be thoroughly investigated and dealt with.
We're retarded.
It's rough around. It's to say the least. It's a little rough around the edges, for a lack of a better term. Fucking hey, dude.
Done well, that's what I think religious practices actually approach, is a transcendent of the natural. That's why you're not supposed to drink a bunch, fuck a bunch, all of these sorts of things. It's like, those are worldly pleasures. Guess what? You can be better than that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, like, it still has a natural footing, because everything has a natural footing.
Yeah, well, excess is a negative spirit unto itself, and a lot of people denote lust as a sin, but without those sexual primalcy, we would not exist. Exactly. There would be no procreative cause within our species, literally at all.
Yep.
And not to mention, I think that the way we shun sex and showed as a negative, yet literally the most innocent humans to ever exist are formulated through it. I think that is a spiritual alchemy and physical alchemy in of itself. We're basically taking this relic that has such control over us, and it's perverse, and it's grotesque, and it's primal, but then we create these beautiful blank slates of potential that are really why we exist. At the end of the day, I mean, you get down to the brass tacks and you're just in your house. The reason you exist is for your posterity, as men especially.
See, and that's why I love how we structure the idea of what sex should be within a I hate using this term simply because the what I truly learned about the title Christian was used. I was telling Tim about this earlier, but the Romans actually used it after the crucifixion of Christ to make fun of us, or make fun of the people at the time who would then follow Christ and then proceed to crucify them as well. But in the Christian ideal, I should say, the idea that when it comes to sex, that don't get me wrong, obviously, I could see why people, not necessarily because they just want to fuck, but the idea that there's something about being in a relationship with somebody, and for a fact that that's your fucking girl. You'd never do anything to hurt this woman. You never do anything to try and break this woman's heart. You would never want to lose this woman. And you guys just so happen to not be married. I think that there's a level of love between two people who just so happen to not be married, but know for a fact that that's their boo, for lack of a better term. They're that one person. I feel like that if there's a genuine love between the two, I don't think that the idea of waiting till you guys are married to have sex, if you have that much fucking restriction on yourself, well, not necessarily a restriction, is not the word I'm looking for. More of a what's the word I'm looking for?
It's a tool. Marriage as a sacrament
a will
is a
to
tool.
like want to a will to not want to do that until you get married. More power to you, buddy. More power to you. Do I think that you should wait until you have? And don't get me wrong. For the longest time, I would have told you, just a little certificate from the government, that says you guys are married. I understand marriage for a whole nother spiritual aspect that is genuinely a beautiful thing. But at the same time, to wait until you guys are married to then proceed to make love to one another, I think that's not something that you should genuinely wait for. If but if you do, more power to you. Fucking go for it, but I'm not going to stop you. But at the same time, there's a level of, hey, this is my loved one. I love this loved one. This is my soon to be wife per se, or this is my my girlfriend, my this would be her boyfriend, and we actually love each other, and there is no way that we would ever get rid of each other, Fucking send it, dude. Make love to the person you know for a fact is your plus one, the one that you would never do anything to ever, because you know that that's the one you want for life. Fucking send it, dude. That is a fucking miracle right there. Not many, obviously it happens, but I would say to the extent that, especially in the modern day, not many people get to actually experience that type of love between them and the person of the opposite sex, because of just how fucking degraded the idea of love has been like portrayed as, especially with a lot of like 40s and 50-year-old dudes in marriages that fucking hate themselves because they didn't actually
jokes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've let their love die. They've let their fucking their wife obviously. Yeah, exactly. The wife's just as much to blame. I'm not just blaming men, but
right.
But the idea of waiting for that certain person that you know that there's an actual spiritual connection, not just I think she's attractive, let's do it. No, like the idea that actually being connected as one flesh, I think that comes before the marriage.
I don't necessarily
and then a marriage would be the fruit of that, connection between one another, that connecting of the flesh, metaphorically, obviously, then to proceed to actually, like fucking give it to her, you know what I mean? Like, for just to joke around a little bit.
I don't necessarily disagree, but I will challenge you on a few aspects. I'm a firm believer.
I've got a thought on that too. Whenever you're done,
Tim, go ahead first. Feel free, because I've been yapping, and I'd like to hear your thoughts first, so I can incorporate it.
I think that is an entirely modern, convenient synthesis of the two, because I think marriage I can't say for its original sense, because in its original sense hasn't been a thing, and
well, yeah, it was like
no one knows.
Contract between bloodlines.
Yeah, so as I understand Christianity to mean it, is like, look, marriage is because you're going to have a kid. Now we can almost guarantee that you're not going to have a kid unless you really want to have a kid. But a time not very long ago at all, that wasn't the case. So do I think now it's like you absolutely have to wait for marriage for someone you genuinely love and will spend the rest of your time with? Do you have to wait for sex for something like that? It's like, I can't really say. But if we look at marriage in, I think, the context that Christianity means it, has nothing to do with signing this, signing that, or anything having to do with the government. It's like your families and your friends and your communities all come together, and it's like, look, it's maybe put a little bit more in modern terms. There's like the social pressure of like what happens if
identity
guys break
is socially
up.
Negotiated. So when people witness you as married, you are then thus married only unto your own.
Yeah. Yes, and if you guys break up, you're shamed basically out of the social circle, and you just lost.
Right.
So I think being able to, thankfully so in some cases, think like, well, should sex be had before marriage? Yeah, we're afforded some modern conveniences, but I would argue, just as an aside, some of those modern conveniences are actually
it's a sugary
fucking
treat.
Horrible.
Yeah, it's a slippery slope to say the least when it comes to that, because it's one thing to actually make love to the person you want to be with. It's another for you guys to just be fucking fuck. You know what I mean? Because that's where the slippery slope comes in, and that's why I feel like obviously, like I said before, you don't have to necessarily. At least I don't think so. If you have that connection with someone, fucking send it, dude. Actually make love to that person. But if you guys are having sex before that actual connection has been made, and you guys are still just a couple, because you guys have known each other for a while, and you then proceed to fuck prematurely, I think that's where people go wrong.
Right.
In that sense, because I feel like, and then one denies the idea, the two main things that sex is for. One is to be connected with someone you love personally, and two, to then make a child. Which one of those two you guys prioritize is, honestly, I think both of them are good to prioritize. But at the same time, I understand why Tim would think that, with the idea of making a child is kind of more of the modern thing. Maybe it's a more older thing. I don't really know. I think that's definitely one of the prime ideas in having, getting married to a woman, is to then proceed to, then create a family. Which, Carson, all respect to you, brother, for doing that. Wait until you got married to then have a kid. That's some Chadley shit, dude. Not gonna lie. But
it's the only way a man should conduct himself with discipline.
Exactly based. But but I would say that yes, if you know for a fact, like, you guys have been together for a long time, you know that this is the one you want, like, you already, like, you have the thought in your mind, like, you're not ready for it yet, but you have the thought in your mind, like, I gotta marry this woman. Like, at least let that thought creep into your mind before you go and try to plow her. You know what I mean? But once you have that actual connection with that person of the opposite gender, just to be specific, then dude, by all means, make love to the person you love. Do it. It's a beautiful thing. It is a gift from God. And that whether it be in the idea of being able to connect yourself even more to the person you are, that you have, dedicated a good chunk of your life to. Not only that, but then if you truly wanted to, once you do obviously get married, then you guys can then proceed to do the other miracle that, sex comes with, and that is producing children.
Right.
So I don't think waiting till marriage is something that's a necessity. If you want to, fair enough, more power to you. I respect your decision, because let's face it, most people who don't end up just fucking to fuck, and next thing you know, their relationship's boring as shit, and they don't have that fire for their fucking partner that they used to, because you guys have just fucked the day away, and next thing you know, it's like, well, I don't really care about this person anymore. Good day, mate. So that's why I feel like you should at least just wait until you have that connection with them. Make sure that you know for a fact that this person would, you would do anything for her, she'd do anything for you, and then dude, enjoy your partner to the fullest extent. That means within the spiritual aspect, the mental aspect, the sexual aspect, physical, all of it, man. Because you want to dive deep, be ingrained with your partner. You don't want to just know them on a one level. You got to get to know them on all. And I feel like once you've known them on all those different levels, then hit the sexual one. If you guys aren't married by that time, I don't think that's a problem. Now, if you try and hit that sexual one before you've hit those other levels, your relationship is, I'm not going to say it's destined to fail, but I would say you have a pretty solid fucking chance it will.
I might focus on some of the more primal and more spiritual aspects of it, but I think that, like, spoiler alert, this is going to end in hoflation, but I think that you're irrevocably tied to that person now, right? Mm-hmm. You have applied energy to each other. You have given and you have taken. Yep. And that is you can't go back. You have irrevocably created a spirit. Whether it was a spirit of lust, a spirit of just intoxicated love, or anything, because we've all been young men. When you're in the fucking pilot seat for the first time, it's like fucking drugs. You're completely tapped out. You just don't know.
You have no idea what the fuck you're getting into. Yeah. You just know you love it.
Right. And I think that is it at its most purest form of essence. If you're like infatuated with a girl and everything, that is probably the most innocent, I guess you could say it may be. Yeah. I think that I think it is unfortunately harder for women because they're more emotional beings. Sure. I think that when you hand out that connection willy-nilly without trying to formulate basis upon which for these things to stand, you devalue the currency. I guess we would put it in a postmodern economic term, where it's just not special. And it kind of, you're sit there trying to chase the dragon of that kind of progenitive like experience that kind of set the framework for how you think about the sexual faculties entirely. I do think that people waiting for marriage, being reserved unto themselves, including men, it's good for them. I think it's just better. I don't know, because it really depends on the spirit that you're purveying. Like if you're going out to just go be a nasty fuck and take advantage of people, obviously incredibly negative, that you're purveying a demon, don't do that. Yeah. But like if you've laid with many women, but you've always been genuine and caring and kind throughout all of it, you're not purveying a negative spirit at all, I don't think. But it is not as special as the person that you are spiritually bonded to for the rest of your life.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can't beat it.
And see, it comes back to that slippery slope right there, because when it comes to the idea of, even if you're not betraying that, you got to be a pretty honorable fucking Chad to be sleeping with a bunch of these ladies, and not eventually just get wrapped up in it all. So, like, don't get me wrong, I would tell them that they should stop and not do that, just because of how many people you see on a daily who put themselves in that position. Next thing you know, they're that hedonistic, Slaneshi kind of dude, and and next, it's a slippery slope. But there are limits to it for sure, but I feel like to an extent, avoid that. I know this is gonna sound a little radical, but I would say avoid it at all costs, simply because you just don't know, man. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
Like I said, there are some Chads.
You may think you know, and that's worse.
Exactly. Those are the people that always get got too. Is the people who are like, oh well, no, I got this, bro. Next thing you know, you're sucky fucky with every woman you meet. Next thing you know, you end up with either STDs or children you don't want.
Possibly or you get blindsided with like the rosy glasses, and like clearly a dog shit psycho girl is, seeming pretty neat in the moment, but you're being foolish.
Literally.
Let's be real. We've all done it, dude.
Right.
So I get it. I mean, every guy gets it. I mean, if you say you don't get it, you just lost, and that's the more, I would argue, incel crowd. Didn't get it, didn't have a choice to. They just sucked. So, point being, like, I definitely know what that stuff was like. So you guys talk about being degens this, degens that. It's like, if I had some of my old buddies around, I was King Degen for a season.
It's hard,
and that's obviously not to gloat or anything like that. Those were interesting days, and I kind of understand it now as like, well, I have explored the ocean, swimmed its depths, explored its shores, and found it a pond, basically, where it's like, turns out it's not that deep, guys. It just kind of sucks.
Yep.
And that was my experience with all that. Like, it was a thing for a bit, but it just kind of sucked. Did I have fun when I was having fun? Yeah, but when the fun stops and your mind finally grows up, it's like, that wasn't it, guys.
Nope, hardly is. You truly don't know better in the moment, but once you know better, you're just like, man.
Well, it's weird, because it's like, I knew not to, but I didn't know how severely not to. I didn't understand the depth of the consequences. Yeah. I understood some of them, but it was like, they say this in church, but, what does that even mean? They don't define it. It's like, oh, it'll separate you from God. It's like, yeah, but if I said this prayer, then I'm good anyways, so whoop-de-fucking-do, let's fucking go. And there is some danger with the poor interpretations and the shallow understandings there, obviously. And obviously my own, largely my own who gives a shit attitude about a lot of it. But, yeah, man, I've definitely had to come to learn the hard way of life just isn't about those things. And turns out doing those things makes it even harder to do the right thing after the fact. Excuse me.
Well, guys, Thanks for listening. I'm glad you were here, and I hope you found it useful. Quick reminder that if you want to jump into a conversation like this, we have them every Saturday night at 8 p.m. on Discord. We've got a link in the description below and elsewhere on the channel. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye-bye.